This is the second video in a series of how to swap into one rig and out of another. I'm going to use as an example the engine 1413, which is not the frontline rig that's Station 9, that's actually a reserve rig. So you should have watched my video on using transfer lists, so I won't say much about that right now, other than I'll just show you what that looks like. I showed you what it looked like on an ambulance, but it's the same thing. Let's say that you're going to go back into 1410. So we're in the reserve rig now, 1413, and you're going to go back into 1410. To do that, we're going to transfer some items. And because engine 9 is an extrication engine, we're going to select that transfer list. Now, all this is a list. We're not actually physically moving any assets at this point, but this is a way for you to keep track of the stuff that, at least like on paper, what was in one spot and what was in another. And so to do that, you would say, all right, I'm in 1413 right now. At Station 9, I want to go into 1410, 1410. Right now, that's out of Fleet Services. That's the reason we're into that. So if I log these items, we're going to be moving things from the reserve to the front line. And I talk about how you decide, which items you may or may not move. The one thing I want to show you is that because this is an extrication rig, it not only has the same list of things that you would transfer just naturally if you were a part of a regular engine, but it also has the extrication additional transfer list. And I really don't know how much of this you guys transfer from rig to rig. It may be that you can't transfer at all. So I just copied the entire extrication additions into the transfer list. The only thing I changed was, instead of listing out everything that's in the extrication tool belt, I just listed here as a single item. But if you go to your checklist, you'll notice that the extrication tool belt has a complete list. So this is what it would look like if you were transferring out of 1413 into 1410. And I won't go ahead and go through the steps, but I'll just tell you, you would log it, and then it would show you these are the things that you selected, and then you would make that happen, and then it would record that you made that transfer. What I want to show you, though, is how we actually move assets from one rig to another. So this is something that's deeper into the system, and firemen are not going to have access to the admin rights to be doing this, but as engineers, this is one of the things that you will be doing. And so let me show you what I mean by, just to review, the assets. So right now we only have 5 assets that are associated with 1413, and we are going to be adding more. Actually, you engineers, I'm going to be placing this on your plate to add more assets to this, in particular because engine 1410 is an extrication rig, and we ought to have our Hamatro here, our Paratex here. But if you look under the assets, really the only things that are listed as assets at this point are the radios and the AED. We really do need to have some of our high dollar pieces of equipment that we're transferring. We need them listed as assets. And let me show you where you would go to find assets and how you would assign them. So right now, all of these assets are assigned to 1413, the reserve rig. I'm going to show you how to go and reassign these to the frontline rig when you're ready to make the move. So to do that, we are going to leave the comfort of this familiar screen, and I'm going to have you migrate here to this asset column. All right, so this describes the different assets that we have in the system and that could be assigned to a rig. And then I'm going to have you go to the asset list. And let me start off by clearing all my filters. So the assignment, this shows you what rigs assets are assigned to. So this says that this cot is on that medic unit. But let's deal with the engine stuff here. So I'm going to go to 1413, and the only things that are listed as assets are those 5 assets that we looked at earlier on the opening screen page. If we want to transfer these assets to our frontline rig, which is what we will do whenever we move back into 1410, that MDT as well as these radios are going to go onto 1410. The way we would do that is we are going to say, look, every one of these things is going to go to 1410. So I select them all. And actually, I probably could have just clicked there. Yeah, just there. I select all of those. And I'm going to go up here to the batch. This is going to allow me to do a batch assignment. So we're not using the word transfer here, but it's the same idea. We're assigning these things to another rig. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to click on Assign. And now we're going to say, look, this is going to go to an apparatus. It was listed as unassigned just to start with. We're going to go to an apparatus, and the apparatus we want is 1410. Okay, and right now, of course, it still shows that it's at Fleet Services. But when I click on this, when I save this, those assets are going to be transferred to 1410. So it will do that. And now you'll see that if I go to 1410, they are now a part of this on 1410. Now, I'm just going to turn around and put them right back on 1413 because this one's not in the service. So to do that, they're all still highlighted. I'm just going to go batch again. I'm going to assign them, and I'm going to assign them to the apparatus of 1413, which is at Station 9, and then I'm going to save that. All of those things have left 1410, and now I should be able to find a 1413. Right there we are, and now they are back on 1413. So that's how you can assign things from the rig that you were in to the one you're going in. So that was how we were assigning assets from one rig to another. This shows that MDT ended up on another rig. There are many things that we need to include as assets on Engine 49. And so let me show you what some of the work that needs to be done, and it's my hope that as engineers you guys are willing to do this legwork so that you can make these rigs and these checks your own. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to bring in another look here. So this is the screen that you guys are normally looking at, and what is true is that, like I said, we only have 5 assets listed there, when in reality, we really should be including many of these extrication assets. So I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom here and look at our extrication additions. So, for example, these Paratech struts, they should be listed as assets, and we should have serial numbers on them or some way to identify them so that that when we transfer them from our front line to a reserve or back, that we know which ones we have, because we have more than one set of Paratech struts. And you may already know all of this serial number stuff. This is kind of beyond me. But so let's say that we're going to create an asset with that. So I'm just going to take that name so that I make sure I have it right. And I'm going to create an asset for that so that it shows up as one of the assets on the rig rather than just in a list of things. So this is my goal here, that we're going to change the number of assets from 5 to 6. And the 6th one, if we succeed, is going to be a Paratech strut that I'm going to add to that list. All right? So this is the way we're going to do that. I'm going to move that screen off. And here we have our asset lists. All right? And the way I got there, I went down here to asset lists. And I'm going to clear all my filters so that we're seeing everything. And I'm going to assume that Paratech strut is not in there. And the way I know that is I'm just going to Paratech, anything I type in, it doesn't appear to pull up anything. There's no extrication equipment, which really ought to be a category. And so let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and create a category for that extrication equipment. So I'm going to go to Asset Types. And here, these are all the different possible things. I'm going to say a type would be extrication equipment. And if we wanted to set up alert recipients for that category, not a bad idea. The natural person for that is going to be Jawan. So we'll automatically, if there's any problem with this piece of it, this category of stuff, Chief Randall will get that information. Okay, now that extrication equipment is in the list, right? And this list can be moved around any way we want. I could move it up here. I could say equipment in general and then extrication equipment like that. All right, now let's go back to our assets again and our asset list. And I am going to now add a Paratech strut. Okay, so I'm going to click that Add button, and my asset type is going to be extrication equipment. We just added that. So you know far more about this piece of equipment than I'm ever going to know. I'm assuming that that's the manufacturer is Paratech, but I don't even know that. Let's just assume that that's what it is. You probably know what the model is. I don't know what the model is, but I am going to call this our description will be the Paratech strut. All right? And I'll make that singular because we'll have some. And so we need to clearly identify this strut from any of the others because there's a couple on your rig, but you're going to be able to put that information in. And I'm going to assign this right in this place even to a rig. I'm going to put that Paratech strut on 1413 because that's the rig that we're now working out of in Station 9. And then I'm going to save that. Okay, so if I have succeeded, I now have added that strut as a piece of equipment on Station 9. And let's see, on 1413. Let's see if that happened. And here we have Paratech strut. It shows up, sure enough. And whenever we go back to our other view, we should see 6 items in the list rather than 5. And I'm going to show you that we don't see 6, and now I'll explain why we didn't. It still just says 5. Here's what I neglected to do. Not only do I have to create an asset, and not only do I have to assign it, I also have to schedule a check. Because if I don't schedule an event, it won't show up as needing to be checked. So I'm going to call this a check. And I am going to schedule it to start today. So it should now appear on our list of equipment in Station 9. And let's see if it does. And now whenever I bring in this other screen, I have that asset check. And now when we click on that asset check, it's going to have the Paratech strut as one of the assets that we need to check. All right, so the whole point of this video was that the transfer list, it's just basically you're writing a list and you're saying it went someplace else. When you are assigning assets, though, what you're doing is you are talking about a specific piece of equipment that you have moved from one rig to another. And that is, it's similar to, transferring items, but technically this is actually reassigning a piece of equipment to a rig. All right, so you are in the depths of PSTrax when you are creating assets. I realize that. And you are in the depths whenever you're making assignments and when you're scheduling events. But that is the kind of stuff that I believe that as engineers we are going to be entrusting into your hands, because I don't see how PSTrax is going to work unless engineers are both empowered to do this, given the privilege to make some decisions, as well as you guys are the ones that we are going to come back to and say, hey, when that Paratech strut didn't get transferred, where did it go? You know, what happened with it? And so you're going to be the key to being able to track that. All right, so another video, and I know this one is long, 17 minutes, but hopefully it's worth it.